Okay, lesson 58. You'll see some of the problems you can look at and just see the answer. But the important thing about lesson 58 is learning the process, because the next one, lesson 59, the problems get more complex. Okay, but just like here, you got 2 plus some number equals 8. Now a lot of people will see, well, 3 plus 5, that's going to be 8. So the p is going to be equal to 5. Okay, but let's say it's a big problem and you're trying to isolate this letter here we don't know. As they show in the book in lesson 58, this equal sign is like a scale. Whatever you do to one side of the scale to keep it equal, you got to do the same to the other side. Okay? And when you're trying to find the missing number, you're trying to move everything to one side and isolate that missing number. For example, here, 3 plus some number equals 8. Well, if I want to get rid of this 3 over here, the opposite of a positive 3 is a negative 3. So if I go 3 minus 3, well, that's going to be 0. And that leaves just the p on that side. Well, if I subtract the 3 from this side, to keep this balanced, I got to subtract 3 from the other side. I got to go 8 minus 3. So 8 minus 3 is going to equal 5. Okay, so if I put 5 in for p, 3 plus 5, well, yeah, that's going to equal 8. Okay, another one with adding would be this one. 15 plus some number equals 23. Well, I want to move this 15 or get rid of it or move to this side and leave the b by itself. Now again, a lot of people will go, well, it's obvious. It's, 15 plus 8 is going to equal 23. But then later on, more complex, it's not going to be so obvious. So here, if I want to isolate the b, I got to get rid of this 15. So the opposite of positive 15 is a negative 15. So 15 minus 15 is 0, and that disappears. So I'm left with just the b. But this side, if I subtract the 15 from the left side, I got to do the same thing here. Subtract 15 from the right side. So 23 minus 15 is going to equal 8. So therefore, b is going to equal 8. And I can go back and see 15 plus 8 is going to equal 23. So that's what the same thing with number 1. I think v equals 18 on that one. But here, I got negative 15 plus some number equals negative 9. So this one, to get rid of the 15 on the left side and leave the n by itself, I got to do the opposite of a negative. It's going to be positive. If I got negative 15, I go plus 15. Well, that's going to equal 0. And that's going to leave the n by itself. I isolate the n. But if I subtracted 15 from this side, I got to do the same on the right side. I got to subtract 15 over here. So if I go negative 9 minus a negative 15, well, therefore, no, I'm sorry, positive 15. If I go negative 9 plus 15, well, that's going to equal positive 6. So the equal sign equals positive 6. Okay? So that's the opposite of negative is going to be a positive. Same thing with number 6. I got x minus 7 equals 13. So to isolate the x, I want to get rid of this negative 7, so I'm going to do a positive 7. So negative 7 plus 7 is going to equal 0, so that goes away. I'm left with the x. But if I subtracted positive 7 from the left side, I got to add positive 7 on the right side. So I say subtract, add. So 13 plus 7, that's going to be 20, positive 20. If I do that, if I go 20 minus 7, yep, that's going to equal 13. So this will be the answer. Okay? So the rest of these, 7, 8, 9, 10, are doing the same thing. But if you get to number, let's do this one, number 12. You can see it's multiplying. So I got 14 times b times some number is going to equal negative 56. So here the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So if I go divided by 14, if I go 14 divided by 14, that's going to be a 1 or 1b. But 1b, you really don't need that 1, so that's just going to leave the b. Okay, so I got rid of the 14, I isolated the b. But if I do that to the left side, well, I got to do the same thing over here. I got to go negative 56 divided by 14. So therefore, negative 56 divided by 14, let me do that on the calculator here, just makes that'll be 4. But it's a negative. If you're doing a negative with the positive, it's going to be a negative 4. Remember, with division, if one's negative, the answer is going to be negative. So negative 56 divided by 14 is going to be negative 4. And then you can try that. If you go 14 times the negative 4, and you do it on a calculator, it's going to come out to negative 56. So that one's correct. So you can see I isolate a b, doing the opposite of multiplying is dividing. Well, what about 13? You can see here I got b divided by some number. So the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So if I go times 18 on this side, okay, which is 18 over 1, that'll give me 18 over 18 divided by 18, that'll be 1. It'll be b over 1, which is just a b. Okay, so the opposite of dividing by 18 would be multiplying by 18. So these will cancel each other out and just isolate and leave the b. So therefore I got to do the same to this side. If I did times 18 on this side, 13 is kind of in the way there, but I got to go times 18 on the left side. So therefore on the calculator I'll do 18 times negative 6, and that comes out to negative 108 equals b. So b here, if you do it on the calculator, if you go negative 108 divided by 18, it's going to come out to negative 6. So b, the answer would be, this missing number is going to be 108. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to find the missing number to make this a true statement. Okay? Let's see. Which other ones? Let's look at the other side here. Yeah, they're all kind of, and again, some of them you can obviously see the answer. Okay, just like let's try this one. V is on the paper. V divided by 8, some number divided by 8, that has to equal 2. Some people will go, well, it's going to be 16, because 16 divided by 8 will equal 2. But if it's more complex, how can I isolate this V? Get rid of this 8. Well, here the opposite of dividing is going to be multiplying. So if I go times 8 on this side, 8 and 8, 8 divided by 8 is 1, or 1v, which is just the v, so those cancel each other out. So over here I would have to go 2 times 8, which is 16. So v 16 divided by 8 will equal 2. Yeah, we did it right. That would be the answer. Okay, let's try this one though. 18. I got negative 17 times some number is going to have to equal negative 204. What I want to get rid of is negative 17 times some number. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I have to divide this by negative 17. So negative 17 divided by negative 17 would be a 1, or a 1x, which ends up being x. So this will go away. But if I did divide it and I isolated that x. But if I divided by negative 17, I got to divide by negative 17 on this side. So if I go negative 204 divided by negative 17, let me do it on a calculator, 204, 17, that would be 12. Now these are two negatives, a negative divided by a negative, that would be a positive 12. So if I do it on the, if I want to check it, I go negative 17 times positive 12. Well, wait, do I count? Yep, it's going to equal a negative 204. Okay, so this right here would be the answer. Okay, and the rest of the paper is just like those. Okay, the rest are just like that. 23, just one more. I got 14 times some number is going to equal a negative 126. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So if I divide this side by 14, that'll be 14 divided by 14 is 1k, or just 1k, or just k. So that goes away. So I have to divide this side by 14. So if I go negative 126 divided by a positive 14, that comes out to negative 19. Negative 19. So if I do that, 14 times a negative 19, yep, it goes back to a negative 126. Okay, so that's how you do this one. You're doing lesson 58. And the main thing on these, you don't really get into the squares and the square root on these. But the main thing you got to remember is the opposite of adding is subtracting, the opposite of subtracting is adding, the opposite of multiplying is dividing, the opposite of dividing is multiplying. Okay? And then the last video, I'll show you the answer sheet and how it works out. How I work them out.